Good evening, everyone. My name is John Taves, and I'm the event coordinator here at McNally Robinson Booksellers. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that McNally Robinson is located in Treaty 1 territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. In addition, McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. We are gathered here tonight with huge thanks to Pajama Press to celebrate the launch of the U-nique Lou Fox by Jodi Carmichael. We have a number of special guests that you'll be hearing from this evening as well. So I won't take up too much of your time. I just have some procedural announcements right out at the top, and then I'll be telling you a little bit about two of tonight's featured guests. Now, we do have special guest hosts Colleen Nelson, Deb Froese, and Candice Sareen here tonight, which will be wonderful. You'll hear a few presentations from up here. Deb will introduce Jodi. Jodi will speak a little bit about the book, and then we'll move along to a very exciting structure for the remainder of the event. And I'll allow other folks to let you know a little bit more about that. There will be time for a Q&A at the end of the event as well too, so ready your questions as the evening goes along. At that point, the fearless Deb Froese, who will serve as our host for this evening, will be wandering Phil Donahue style through the audience and taking your questions. If you are watching live on YouTube, you also have the opportunity to participate in the conversation. Just write your questions into the chat and we will interrogate Jodi with them as time permits. Otherwise, the book has been called amazing by such an esteemed body as the International Educator, who said, I could really feel what Lou was feeling. I couldn't put it down until the end and recommend it. Forward magazine called the U-nique Lou Fox a touching novel about a young playwright's self-discovery and creative triumphs. And we'll also be hearing more about the adventures of the wonderfully named Louisa Elizabeth Fitzhenry-O'Shaughnessy shortly. But before then, our author this evening, Jodi Carmichael, is a multi-award-winning author and a champion for the underdog and for kids who think differently. Like Lou in the U-nique Lou Fox, Jodi has ADHD and celebrates the creativity, empathy, and adventurousness it brings to her life. Her other books include the YA novel Forever Julia, which won the Manitoba Book Award, and the Bronze Moonbeam Award, the middle grade novel Family of Spies, Paris, and the chapter book Spaghetti is Not a Finger Food and Other Life Lessons, which won the Silver Moonbeam Award and the Silver Benjamin Franklin Award. We've had the incredible pleasure of launching all of Jodi's books here in this space, so it feels particularly right to be ending our September with an event with Jodi. Your host for the evening, Deb Froese, is a published author of countless articles and 3 books. Her work won a Merca Honor Award, appeared on the American Young Adult Library Services Association list of best books, and was shortlisted for the German National Youth Literature Prize. When she isn't writing, she helps other authors shape their work through her role as executive editor for Indigo River Publishing. Please join me in welcoming Deb Froese.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you to McNally Robinson for always bringing people and books together in the best possible way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's opening night. It's the official launch of the U-nique Lou. I was almost going to call her Joe Fox. That's what happens when you rehearse too much. Anyway, the starring this evening is Jodi Carmichael and her main character, whose name I will not say in full because John did it for me. We'll just call her Lou. And co-starring are these two delightful ladies. Colleen Nelson, who has a wide variety of books. She's probably one of the most prolific authors I've ever met. She's written lots of books for young people, including the incredible and endearing Harvey series. And Candice Sareen, who is a visionary, all-round creative, and a fellow writer. Now, you may be wondering why exactly we're choosing a theater screen, but it kind of makes sense because Lou herself is a playwright and she has very big dreams for the future. So we thought it fitting to present this event to you in 3 acts, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And like any theater presentation, we advise you that you shall not use any recording equipment during the presentation and no flash cameras. And of course, I'm kidding about that. So now the curtain rises on Act 1. It all begins with an author and her story. Jodi, the stage is yours.
Well, that was pretty cool. So when we got together to talk about a book launch, all I came with was an idea that I needed a backdrop. So very excited was I that I thought, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to go out to the rental places. For sure, I can rent one, not so much anymore. So armed with Amazon, I ordered several backdrops until something actually arrived that we could use. But really putting this together was a work of many minds. And I have to thank all these women up here with me because this is a collaboration of effort. It isn't something that I did just on my own, that's for sure. So I first want to thank all of you that are here in person with me tonight. I thank you so very much, seeing all your faces, and you mean a lot to me. And all the people that aren't here for one reason or the other, we do have everything streamed on YouTube, which is great. And that's probably one of the best things that happened with COVID for writers, is that now we can reach a much vaster audience beyond this bookstore, even though we'd like everybody here in the best bookstore in Canada. And of course, as we always thank McNally's, because they go above and beyond, they honor us with always making us feel so special and welcome. And even when they have authors like me, they go over the top and say, hey, John, I have this idea for a theater. And they say, okay, Jodi, sure, we'll make it happen. And then they do. And as I said before, writing a book is pretty much a solo activity. But if you're a writer like me, you like to reach out to other writers to get honest feedback and critique to make your writing really sing. And we have a number of the writers from my writing group. Anita's here tonight, so I was hoping you could wave to everybody. There they are, prolific. And so I have to say thanks to each one of them for their support over the years. We've been together for over a decade, 12 years now. So we know each other very well. So I wanted to say a couple of things about where this book came from. I'm not really going to talk too much about it because I feel I'm going to get grilled and you'll find out anything you ever wanted to know about the book and possibly me. So yay. But before the pandemic, Colleen Nelson and I were taking a walk and we were talking about writing, what we were working on, and I wasn't quite sure where to focus my efforts. And I was telling her about this character I had in the story I was writing. And at the time it was called Louisa Elizabeth Fitzhenry-O'Shaughnessy, playwright extraordinaire. And she said, oh my gosh, that's the book. She was adamant. She goes, and I'm also adamant, you need to change the name.
Are you gonna give me part of your royalties?
Yeah, you get a penny on every book. And what was really great about Colleen is not only did she think that my writing was really special and she loved the topic. She's a teacher, so she sees a lot of students like Louisa in her classroom. So she really thought that there was a need for this story out there. So, you know, I was like, oh, so encouraged. Here's my great friend telling me these great things. And then she said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to contact my publisher, Pajama Press, and I'm going to tell her to watch for your email. And there's not a lot of people that will go the distance like that for you. And Colleen is like that. She's a writer's writer. So I just have to say thank you, because without Colleen, I don't think we'd be here tonight. So thank you, Colleen. A little louder than that. And there's actually 4 other writers that I need to thank. And you've met them already tonight. We've got Deb Froese, and then we've also got my friend Candice Sareen, and 2 writers that are in England. And you know, imagine that, they couldn't fly in for this. And that is Alice Hemming and Louise Morris. And those are the writers from my English writing group that I met when I lived there. And when I was writing this, I would write a chapter or 2 or 3, and I would send them to these 4 ladies, and they would do a mad critique and feedback. I would incorporate their edits, and in that space of time, which was really condensed, I was able to come up with a book that was publisher ready, or at least submission ready. So when it came to this night, I had my backdrop. It was going to be a theater, and I thought, I need the people that helped me get here. Because just like writing a play, when that play is on the stage, it took a whole team of people to get it to that place. And this is my team. And just like Lou, who really appreciates her friends, I really appreciate my friends up here and all of you in the audience. So thank you, my writers. And then, of course, to my publisher, Pajama Press, what a dream it was working with them. And I'm really thankful to Gail, the publisher, that when she received the sample of Louisa, she was so very well connected with the story and the character and what our message was here, which is you're good enough just the way you are. And I just loved that. And it was an instant connection. And then when I sent this in, Erin Aladdin is, I guess, the first line editor. And she looked at it and she was able to give me some, this part is a little slow. This needs to be worked on. And she basically gave me space and opened the door to say, if you revise, resubmit, and maybe it'll be good enough for us to take on. And that's what happened. So there's always second chances when you're writing, which is super great news. And then the editor, Catherine Cole, who really taught me how to be a better writer. And she's what really made the whole story come together in a way that I'm so proud of. And then the illustrations, I know this is going on, but I tell you, it's a big team. The illustrations on this book are from Peggy Collins, and she captured Louisa exactly like I imagined her to be. And so I actually kind of think that's creative brilliance. But then I got thinking, and I have another cousin here in the room, my cousin Greg, and our grandmother's last name was Collins, and her name is Peggy Collins. So I'm kind of thinking it could be karma or divine intervention, and she may be like a long lost cousin 52 times removed. So go Collinses. And to Quinn Baker, who is our marketing genius at Pajama Press, he created these most beautiful bookmarks. And I just have to say thank you to him because he is always looking for ways to help us promote our books in really creative, different ways. So thank you. And of course, finally, to my family. You're all here in my first two rows. I've got I'm at the back there too. I've got a Crawford at the back. My dad's at home because he's just feeling a little under the weather. And I've got my Carmichaels. And I just want to say thank you so much. This book is for all of you. It is especially for my mom. When my mom was in school in the 1950s and 60s, thinking differently wasn't understood. And being neurodivergent was a bit of a minefield. And I'd like to say that things in the classroom are 100% better. They're not yet. We're striving. Things are slowly improving. But if you would like to help kids like Lou Fox, you could join in with the Center for ADHD Awareness Canada in their letter writing campaign. And what we're looking to find is the more treatment opportunities, equitable access to ADHD treatment. And we're looking to actually sway the hands in the provincial and federal government. So if you'd like to join in, do a little Google search on the Center for ADHD. I'd also like to encourage you, if you want to learn more about dyslexia, or if you're a teacher and you're looking to spot dyslexia in your classroom and see who are these dyslexic learners, these adventurous, creative people. If you look on madebydyslexia.com, they've got all kinds of resources there. Within a couple of workshops, it doesn't take long. You can really start to feel more confident as a teacher working with these students. Now, I'm going to read a little bit from the book, because if I go on any longer, my ADHD friends will start to drift into their own daydreams. I can't have that. So I'm going to read the first chapter, and then I'm going to go sit in the hot chair over there and get grilled. Okay. Chapter 1, Three-Headed Fifth Grader. I have big plans, huge plans, boldly audacious plans. In addition to being the youngest playwright in history, I want to be the world's youngest Cirque du Soleil gymnast. That means I must be as rubbery as humanly possible. Even though I am extremely bendy, I am not alone in my bendiness. There are plenty of flexible kids out there. In fact, my two best friends, Lexi and Nakessa, are also exceedingly bendable, which is why we've called ourselves the Bendables since first grade. Being surrounded by all this bendability is a constant reminder to practice my flips, splits, and tumbling whenever and wherever possible. Every morning before the bell rings, Nakessa, Lexi, and I meet under the massive oak tree in the school field to take turns stretching out each other's legs. Just like every day. That's the day when what we were doing, the day everything began to change. Remember, Lexi, I said, as a cool fall breeze blew my hair in every direction. No matter what I say, do not let go. I tucked tangled strands behind my ears and pressed my back against the nubby tree bark. Then I kicked my leg out straight. But what if you beg? Lexi grabbed my ankle, slowly pushing my leg up toward my shoulder. Nope. What if you cry? A gust of wind rained oak leaves down on us. Never. What if your face turns blue? Nakessa asked as she zipped up her navy puffer vest. She flung her black braids over her shoulders and began to sing, "If Lou's face turns blue," she trilled, stretching her arms out wide. "What will we do?" Nakessa is forever making up songs about everything. It's my number one thing that I love about her. My next favorite thing is that she raids her dad's closets every morning. Lexi laughed. "Nice song. I like the tune, but why would Lou's face turn blue?" Nakessa shrugged. "Faces always turn blue in movies." "This is not a movie," Lexi replied. She slowly pushed my leg up a few inches. "Imagine if this was a movie. I would be a famous gymnast, dazzling the world with my moves," I said, beginning to feel real pain. "At least if it was a movie, there wouldn't be singing," Lexi said. "Wrong," Nakessa crossed her arms. "There are plenty of movie musicals. What about Annie?" She burst into song again. "The sun'll come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar she'll sing the whole song," Lexi finished. Nakessa cartwheeled behind Lexi, her long legs poker straight. It was nearly as good as my cartwheels. Another gust of wind blew. Shivering, Lexi propped my leg against her hip so she could pull up her jacket hood. Her pale face looked even tinier encircled by the gray fur trim. "Blue faces," I said, as Lexi pushed my leg up again. "Maybe we can add blue faces into our play." Lexi frowned. "If there are blue faces in The Haunting of Lakeside School, I want magic. You already agreed to Nakessa's ghost. I think I should be able to use my Harry Potter wand." "Fine, magic is in." My hamstrings burned, my heart began to pound. Nakessa stopped cartwheeling and stepped closer, her cheeks now flushed pink. "Your face is actually going bright red, like a fire engine." "It's okay," I exhaled. My heartbeat boomed in my ears. "Don't stop." It was actually hard to speak. "Are you sure? You're normally fish belly pale." Lexi lowered my leg an inch. "Fish belly?" Lexi moved her face so close to mine, our noses almost touched. "You're sweating across your nose. Your freckles are even sweating." "No pain, no." The morning bell rang. Lexi dropped my leg. I slumped against the tree and rubbed my thigh muscles. Was my foot closer to my ear? Maybe a little closer than yesterday. My whole body sagged. "Don't worry, Lou. We're here for you," Nakessa sang as she linked an arm through mine. "All for one and one for all." Lexi took my other arm. "Ready," I said. "Steady," Lexi said. "Ready," Nakessa sang. "Go Bentables," we cheered. Then, like every morning, we ran across the field like a three-headed fifth grader. With arms linked, we dodged around the other students. And like every morning, my heart soared. Why? Because just before school was my favorite time of the day. I could still pretend the day ahead would be spectacular, which would be way better than the best. That was before I stepped a pinky toe into school and the reality of the place sank in, squashing my soul. Okay, maybe a little dramatic, but if you were me, you'd find school soul-sucking too.
And now we enter Act 2 and the meat of the matter, where these two lovely ladies will grill Jodi. Let's see what they have to say.
So you did the thing I'm most scared of, which is singing in public. And you did it really well.
I was going to warn everybody and I forgot.
No, I thought you were amazing.
Oh,
You're welcome. Okay, so as Jodi said, I have known her for a very long time and had the pleasure when I was teaching at Beaumont. We adopted Jodi because her book City Spies Paris was coming out, and the kids absolutely fell in love with you. You are an amazing school presenter and you bring such warmth and joy. to the children because that's just who you are. So
Well, that's nice. We're done. Good luck.
thrilled to be here today, and now we can grill you. Okay, so my first question is about Lou. I mean, it is a character-driven novel, and when I read it, I absolutely loved Lou. I just thought you embodied so beautifully what this little girl is going through and her struggles, and made her entirely lovable. So I'm wondering, in what ways are you like Lou, and how are you dislike her, and what made her a fun character to write?
Wow, that's a lot.
Nothing like a three-parter question for a person with
Okay.
ADHD.
I'll start with A and then move to 2. And
Okay.
finish with Z. Okay, well, what was the most like me? Well, I obviously have ADHD. Growing up, I didn't know. I have the sort of ADD that is often linked to what we would think a girl version of ADD is, but it actually doesn't have a gender. And it just presents in every person a little differently. And for me, it was inattentive. So I would get through a class and it would be time to answer questions. And I had absolutely zero idea what had happened because I had drifted into a daydream. And it happened enough times that my common response was, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, which teachers love hearing. It was very honest, but I didn't realize why I wasn't listening. And I was looking through some report cards about 2 weeks ago. And the common comment was something now we know was ADD, but at the time we just thought, you know, it's just Jodi. And it was, she has so much potential. For someone so intelligent, she sure asks a lot of questions. If Jodi would just please settle down and stop disrupting everybody around her, she could get her work done. Yeah, sounds so easy. So in things like that, I am very much like her. When she has the explosive anger in the classroom and it builds up and she just can't contain it, that wasn't me. I have anxiety, so there's no way in heck I would have ever acted out like that in public. I would take that home and in a puddle of tears, get that out of my system. So that was very different. I am not dyslexic, so I don't have the same challenges that way. I have dysgraphia, which means writing for me was really tricky. Forming letters, seeing them in my mind, and then getting them on the paper. Knowing where to put spaces between words. I thought I was doing it. I wasn't. It was one huge sentence. And I had a teacher that was pretty brutal on me for that. So that gave me a little bit of school avoidance, if you can imagine. And what I loved about her, well, the very first scene that came to me, because I often hear characters speaking, it's a good thing this happens, right? So I heard this dialogue with this little girl, and it was the scene where the teacher is handing back the spelling test, and she already knows who the teacher's talking about, and that rage and that writing so hard that her pencil broke. I remember that. Because I had this graphia and it was so hard to make those letters, I had a callus, this huge bump on my finger until mid-40s, like into my 40s. Like, that's a lot of decades of callus. And no matter how hard I gripped it, it didn't make any difference. Right. And I remember doing a project. Actually, I've got a friend here in the room, Karen, and we were doing this project, and it was a newspaper, and we had to draw lines on this blank piece of paper, and I kept making the lines, even though I was drawing them, they were off, they weren't straight. And she's like, why aren't you making them straight? I'm like, I'm so trying. And I visually couldn't see that my ruler wasn't making lines straight until I'd done the whole page. It was very frustrating. So that the frustration is something I can tap into in a minute. Yeah. Because it takes you right back to those moments.
I think like reading it as a teacher too, it gave me so many insights into my students who I'm like, oh, have I been as accepting of the challenges that they are presenting, you know? So just the way it just was very eye-opening.
Yeah, I think if you don't know that's what a child's struggling with though, it can also just look like, oh, they just don't want to be here. They're just not trying. There's so much that goes on behind the scene. And when you're a teacher with 30 kids in your classroom, if you're not given that information, I mean, a teacher can only do so much, right?
Yeah, well, you did a great job. Yeah,
thanks. You really did. I almost forgot I was up here. But you actually asked you something. So I've known Jodi a very long time as well, and we've bonded over these similar differences in learning. And with our own families as well, we know a lot of people with either dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADD, ADHD, all of the spectrums. So we did bond over that, but not just that, we bonded in writing as well. And she has been such a mentor to me and such a wonderful friend. And I just, every time she writes a middle grade book, that to me is where Jodi shines. She just has such a way of tapping into those characters at that age group that really speak to everybody, that you kind of brings you back to that age group and go, I remember feeling that way. So I think this book is going to be great for so many to understand how different people learn. So I thank you for writing it on behalf of a lot of people that I know. And so I guess keeping going in the same sort of questions, it sounded like you had a lot of fun writing certain parts of this story with Lou. Can you think of one of the most favorite scenes or the most fun to write that you?
Okay, well, there's a scene in the book between Lou and her dad near the end of the book, and I loved that scene. And you haven't read it, so I'm not going to tell you all about it. But if you have read Danny, Champion of the World by Roald Dahl, that's my favorite Roald Dahl. The relationship between the son and the dad was something that I just loved as a child growing up, and it just really touched me. And as I wrote that, not that they have anything in common, but I cried when I was writing it. And I couldn't figure out why. And I think it was because to me, it had that same sentiment. So I love that. I love having strong parents, and I love having a really strong dad figure, because sometimes we make the dad the buffoon when we're writing. And there's some really awesome dads out there, like my husband. And so I just really, and my dad. And so I just really wanted to show that. Because so oftentimes when we're writing, the mom is the hero when she comes in and saves the day and she does all the stuff. And yes, moms are great. I am one. I think I'm pretty special. But dads are amazing too. And I wanted that in this book. So that was one of them. I loved all the scenes with her friends. I loved writing the struggle between her friends. I loved that very much. I loved her sass. Like, I wanted her to be real. I didn't want her to have this big aha moment and suddenly she's this calm, like says everything right kind of person, because that's not who she is. And I just didn't think that was realistic for a human being. I think we have to have faults and we have to still struggle with things, because that's what life's all about. And I'm so sorry, but I really love writing this book. I love the relationship between her and her friends, because I just think you don't need a lot of friends. But you have to have a few to really have your back. And I just love that dynamic. I loved writing that she almost lost the friends. Like, to me, that was just hard. It was so hard to do. When you're writing your characters, you gotta really beat them up, and it was so hard. But I needed her to see, okay, I've done something really wrong here, and how do I make it better? And what was that sacrifice going to be? And I can't tell you what it is, because you haven't read it.
Okay, so you totally just stole one of my next questions. So thanks for screwing my script up, Jodi. Appreciate that. Where's the director?
I'm here all right.
Okay, so you've been complimented on the character of Mrs. Muswagon before.
Yeah.
She is a very sympathetic principal. Can you talk a little bit about her? And to me, she comes in at just the right time.
Okay, so I've had the great fortune of working in several schools in the office. So I get to see the principals and vice principals, oftentimes some of the resource people, interact with kids. And by and large, 99.9%, it's been just like a lesson how to deal with our children. And so she is based on the best that I have seen with principals. And I wanted her to be everything every child like Louisa would want to have in their lives. So somebody that really listened, asked the questions, sympathized, but didn't let her off the hook. And so I think I based her on an amalgamation of, there's 5 in specific principals and vice principals that I think I took, not even words they said, but just they have, you know, that they have that vibe about them, that strong compassion, but holding the kids accountable in a way that was remarkable. It was like watching a parenting class. I could have taken them home. I would have been better. Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of characters, I guess I'll continue with that line of questioning. So we talked a lot about the dad, and I loved his character, and I loved how actually both of her parents were so supportive of Lou. And the dad at one point explains what a modus operandi is, her MO. So she's describing what her MO is, and Lou says that her MO is doing spelling by failing. And along the way, she also says her mom's MO is relax and don't sweat the small stuff, which I thought was super great. And her friend Nikessa is always be tons of fun. Lexi is to be stellar at everything. Do you know what your MO is?
Oh my gosh. They didn't tell me what they were gonna ask me. I was like, yeah, it'll be super great. It'll be all ad lib. That was my MO. I think my MO is to be kind always.
That fits.
I don't always do it, but I'm trying.
All right, Miss Jodi, my question is, this is gonna be hard for you because you are a big reader. What books inspire you as an author? Mine.
Yeah.
Everything that Colleen Nelson has ever written since kindergarten.
Thank you.
Can you list those books?
Yeah.
Like alphabetically. I hate to be put on the spot because I'm here in the hot seat, but I have a really hard time with coming up with the names and people's like their names and underscore us. So this is what I like. I like character-driven novels. I don't like plot-driven novels. Sorry, I don't. I like to bond with my character first. I like voice. I like to open the book and know exactly, I want to be able to look at this story through the character's eyes. So it doesn't have to be in first person. It can be in third. That's perfectly fine. First person is if they're saying it. So my day was great. Third person is Louise's day was bad.
Do all your characters walk like
They walk like pirates. Children, pirates, yes, yes. Well, that'd be a good book. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so that's what I look for. I like books that have, if there is a message, I want it to be so well hidden, I don't know what's happening. I love really good prose, so I like the words to sing. I have a harder time with some poetry, but I'm getting to really enjoy it as I take the stress off of, I don't have to get it right away. So what the writers that I love, there's so many good Canadian writers. Of course, Colleen's in there. Our friend Maureen in the audience, Anita's in the audience. Oh my God, all the writers in the audience.
There's actually quite a
amazing.
few writers.
There are. Oh, Mary Lou, Larry, Pat, and I've got Gabe. I feel like I'm from that, what's that? Yeah, Romp Around, where if I see
It's
that's just
funny
for
that
older
Drew
people.
totally picked up on that. Like all she said was, I feel like, and then you finished the sentence.
because we share a brain.
Okay, well, so speaking of authors, I know that you read a lot and you learn each time you read. I know that about you. And you spend so much time with other authors. You're in groups, different groups to guide you through and bounce ideas off. Can you think of how other authors help you to become a better writer?
Okay, yeah, well, I think there's a lot there. So the very, I guess, I don't know, obvious would be is when we share work in different writing groups, you have to be open to receive the feedback. So if you are nervous about what you are presenting, you really have to be cautious about what you're asking for and be very specific. With our writing group, we give feedback and sometimes we don't all agree. And I think we all have a bit of an idea of that. If you hear it more than once, in a group of 5, 6, 7, 8 people, there's probably something that you need to look at there. I think it's a really good way to test out your work as well. With my English writers, we send each other massive amounts of words that we'll just like, how many words are we sending to each other? And one of them, Alice, is really prolific and can write a 70,000 word novel. And like, I swear it's 3 or 4 months. I don't know how she does it. And so by doing that, you get better because you know not only have your critique, you read other people's critique of that work. And so you learn strategies, you learn how to write tighter. That's what I love about writing group. And then when you're having a really bad time of it, things aren't working, you're submitting and you're getting no's, it's a very nice place to go and say, hey, but keep going. Your work should be out there. And you need that because otherwise it's a really tough business. Like anything creative, it's a very tough business. And you need a very thick skin. And sometimes you don't have a thick skin. Sometimes it feels a little thin.
So what surprised you the most from working on this book?
What surprised me the most?
I just made that question up, by the way. And now it's the toughest one.
What surprised me the most? You know what surprised me the most is
What,
that,
Jodi?
We're all
all
and I don't think it was the writing part of it. It wrote as if I channeled her, which was, that happened with me, the spaghetti, where I just felt this character. Every time I'd sit down, it was like the movie would start again and I'd see everything in my mind and hear her talking and the story unfolded. And because I was writing at a really fast pace, it was just a joy. I never had to go, where was I? I knew exactly where I was because I stopped writing the moment I went to bed and I got up again. What was kind of cool about this book is that you often submit like a lot before you get a yes or give me your full manuscript, that kind of stuff. And this one was fast and that was quite a joy. So that would be it.
And I'm happy that that's how it worked. And honestly, reading the book, that's how it felt. Like it felt so cohesive and it felt like the voice was really strong.
Everything I write's like that.
Right. Well, do we want to know a little bit more about Jodi or we continue with the book? Okay, that's fine. Okay, Lou's mom, also a wonderful character that you wrote, so supportive of her. She tries to make learning fun for Lou. She knows how hard it is for her. And her mom calls big words, there's no big words, long words, lots of syllables, $5 words. And some $5 words in the story are abysmal, preposterous, stupefied. So you can see how they're $5 words, right? Super big. And those are always difficult for Lou to spell. What would be a $5 word to describe tonight's event?
Super colossal sentence.
Daughter.
That's such a good one. But, this would be, it's not a word, it's a sentence. I
I
guess
thought you were gonna say it's a sound and yours.
That's it. Oh my God, Colleen, you're an amazing writer.
Just a lot of grunts. Like,
I just think this is a dream come true. So I don't think that's a word. This just feels unbelievable. It's not a really great, that's like a 4.75.
a discounted $5 word.
And I think that $5 word was my mom's thing. Like it's somewhere from our family. She said, like, I don't know, but someone in my family would refer to words like that. They had a value.
Yeah,
I don't know who
yeah,
it was.
25-cent words. I like $5 better. Like
$5.
inflation.
Yeah, 5 cents was $5.
Candice, do you want to ask one more and then I'll do the.
Sure, yeah, okay. So we're gonna learn a little more about Jodi. So this is just rapid fire. You can't think, you just have to choose, okay? Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Hot or cold?
Hot.
Movie or book?
Book.
Morning person, night owl?
Middle of the day.
Oh, no, make her choose, Candice.
You have a function that night for.
True story.
Because you have the brain, Drew. Give her a break.
10 to 2.
City or country?
City. Oh, but I like the lake.
No, that's not allowed.
This isn't rapid fire anymore.
It's conversational.
Okay, last one. Paperback or ebook?
Paperback.
Okay, I have one more. Who's a better writer, Colleen or Maureen?
Time for the win.
I would drop the mic, but John would literally come and strangle me, so I won't. Okay. Okay, Miss Jodi, thank you for being on the hot seat. I think you did amazing. Do you guys think? Yes?
Well, now that you've finished with your questions, I think it's time for the audience to answer or ask some questions. So Jodi, you're not off the hot seat yet. And is this supposed to come out of here?
So just slides in.
Oh, okay. Why am I not sliding? So does anyone in the audience have any questions that they would like to ask Jodi? And please don't be shy because you can tell she's good at answering them.
So who would play Lou in the movie?
Who would play Lou in the movie? Oh, I told you I'm not good at names under pressure. I think it would have to be a girl.
With red hair, right? Messy
No,
red hair?
No, she's got brown hair. It's
Oh,
it's the color of Emma's hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Emma.
My daughter Emma.
Any other questions?
What does fire inspire you with dyslexia?
Okay, so Dyslexia is something that occurs in my family a lot. I have a ton of family members who have dyslexia of different ways. Dyslexia with reading and understanding information, dyscalculia with understanding numbers and manipulating them, remembering your times tables, that's kind of thing that never happened to this one here until she got to university. So but for me, it just was part of our family. My mom has dyslexia and dyscalculia, struggled in school, was kicked out of math in grade 5 or grade 3, I think it was, grade 3, and told she could come back when she could learn math, which is preposterous. It's a $5 word. And she has now got her master's degree in social work. So I wanted to show that these things are challenges and they make things difficult, but not impossible. And so I wanted to show that you can have challenges and be amazing, incredible, and awesome. So I wanted to show both of it, the challenges and the strengths. So that's why. And I just think oftentimes too, and I don't know what study this came from, is that oftentimes people who are neurodivergent, so dyslexia, ADHD, autism, often are also extremely creative. So I really wanted to showcase that.
Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Anita.
It's nice to see all of you guys here. My question is, with your ADHD, do you find that you have to employ certain strategies to write a book? I mean, it takes a long time to write a book. How do you overcome those sorts of challenges of keeping your attention?
Yeah, it's not the attention, because I will hyper focus onto writing. I'm very bad at procrastination, and it's called ADHD. When you get frozen, what's it called, Sarah? Yeah, paralysis, ADHD paralysis. So I basically will hover around my computer and look at it, go, yeah, I'm gonna write until I'm gonna go and do the dishes now and I'll come back. So that is my problem. Once I'm down there, button, share, engage, I'm done. Like I can focus really, really fast. So when I read, you could have like World War III around me and I'll be in my book, reading my book. So that's the gift. But to get to the gift, I have to get out of that locked mind state. So what I've recently learned is I give myself, okay, I got to do it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I do it. So that is helpful.
A little Brene Brown in there?
I don't know if it was her, that woman that does Mel Robbins, that does the high 5 in the morning. I think that's where, and it was, I mean, it's so silly, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it works. So who cares, right? It works.
Can I just say that was a really good question, and I'm worried that we're fired for the next time we have a launch.
Never.
Oh, I have a question, and I don't even need the mic. That's super loud.
Sorry, could you use it just so people can hear you online?
Oh, now you made John mad, Maury. That was John irritated. I've never heard that before.
I'm sorry, John. I'm just wondering, what are you working on these days?
That was the question I forgot to ask.
Oh,
So
I
thanks,
wanted to ask
Maureen.
that one. Thank you. Question. So I got this book that I finished, and I'm waiting to hear if it could be a yes. And it is called Pork Chop, because you got to vision this, right? A Mission Double Trouble. And it's about an ancient dog child whisperer who roams North America seeking children to heal and help. And I love this book so much. And it's told from Pork Chop's point of view, naturally. Anybody else up? How come everybody's coming from the middle today?
Hi, Jodi. Congrats.
Hi, Karen. That's my BFF since grade 7.
Quick question. When you're writing, when you're coming up with your first idea, your very first putting down your thoughts for this book, the very first time, do you use pencil and paper, or is it straight to the computer?
Oh, this is very good. Good question. Actually, she's a teacher, really good teacher as well. Okay, so it sort of depends. I would say this. When I have a new idea that comes to me, it always comes at the most inopportune time. So I will be driving, I'll do whatever. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll grab, like I usually have some kind of receipt because my car's a mess sitting next to me, and I'll just start writing on that receipt as hard as I can so I can see it. But remember, I have dysgraphia, so nothing is legible. So I have to then quickly go back home and quickly type it into my computer so I can actually read it, because I have so many scraps of paper that great ideas, I guess. Like, who knows? I used to carry a notebook with me all the time as well. That was super helpful, but I like being on the computer. Every once in a while, if I get really stuck, I will go back to pen and paper, but because my writing is so illegible, and now I've got arthritis, so it's really harder for me to actually use a pen and paper. But it's a good question. And you know, you get a different kind of creative output. And a lot of writers will say this, that if they're stuck on the computer, they'll go to pen and paper. And it just engages you more. When you write longhand, it's actually a form of mindfulness, because all you can focus upon is creating something out of individual blocks, like little letters. And so that is a creative output, is making a word from letters. I learned that with dyslexia actually too. If you're looking to help kids understand how the words come together, if you do longhand versus printing, they see a connection between the letters, and it's like another way of learning to write and print and read.
Wow, good questions from the audience
We
today.
have some from online too. Tara Elliott says, just got the book today and was brought to tears when I saw the dyslexia font. Thank you.
Okay, can I say that was from Erin Aladdin, who I mentioned before. We were going right to the final edits and everything else, and we were talking, I said to her, in Waterstones in the UK, they have a huge display of dyslexia books that are printed with dyslexia font and different color paper to make it easier for dyslexic readers to be able to enjoy stories. And she remembered that, and she said, what if we did that? And so even when you go in here, instead of having italics wherever possible, you will see bolded words, because italics is hard for a lot of people to read. It pops right out of a story, and then you actually your brain has to refocus on the page. So if you have things in bold wherever possible, it punches, but it doesn't change the shape of the letters. And the shape is really important, and how much space between each line, and white space.
There's another couple of questions to go with that. Are your other books in that font, and will your future books be in that font? I think somebody really appreciates that font.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I did this presentation for a school library journal, and I see somebody that also was there as well. Linda is an amazing new writer in Winnipeg. She's got 2-3 books, a series coming out soon, and next month we're launching it together. So anyway, so we ran this workshop together, and there was quite a few teachers who are dyslexic. And they were asking a ton of questions about that. So there is a need for dyslexia-friendly fonts, and it isn't hard to do. And if more books were made that way, then readers that aren't dyslexic would have an easier time reading books. I can't go into the past and change the fonts, unfortunately, and there's pretty standard ones that publishers use. I would hope that any further books would have, we only have so much control. I think if I was able to do more with Pajama, I would hope that they would be on board with that. They were so supportive with this book. I can't tell you, it just meant so much.
Thank you. Any other, we've got lots of questions coming up. This is good.
Hi, Jodi.
Hi, Sandra.
I'm gonna cry. So when you wrote Spaghetti, I remember that Connor became your third child. Did you feel as connected to Lou as you did to Connor? Or do you rather feel as connected?
I almost in some ways more. Is a really good question, Sandra. Because she feels a bit like a fourth child, but also more of an extension of me. Like she would fit into our family as if we have a spare room, that would be Louisa's, right? So she's even closer to me, I think, because some of the struggles she went through, I've witnessed, I've been a part of, right? Yeah, it was just like writing Connor. It was that same channeling of this character that just wouldn't stop talking. I don't know where that came from.
You said that one of the characters is based on office staff at different schools. When you are developing characters, do you ever have concerns that certain people might think this might be based on them? And does that change your choices for that character?
Rob, very good question. So I usually am not even aware that I'm doing that at all until I've written the book and go, hey, it kind of reminds me of so-and-so. So I make sure that names are very different. If there's like a key, like a characteristic or like a facial feature or something about their, their body, the way they carry themselves in the world, I definitely would change that. I've never done anything that's been very like, oh my gosh, this is my mom, right? My mom is not in this book. So I try not to base my characters too heavily. I know some writers do, like they will basically have a character outline of somebody they know and they put that person in the book. And I just kind of think, one, it's cheating, and two, it's kind of rude. So I think people writers get influenced by everything. Other books we see, movies we see, people we interact with, going to see nature, like everything gets part of like a well of creativity and it gets mixed up into that. That's why when you think of dragon books, there's 1,000 different dragon books because we all have our version of what that might look like. So, yeah.
We are getting closer to the top of the hour, so I think we probably have time for 2 more questions. Who wants to offer one?
Well, this is a personal question. Could you tell us what day and month you were born?
This is my brother-in-law, Bob. And I do know my day and month. I was born September 28th. Oh, you sneaky.
Happy birthday, dear Jodi. Happy birthday to you.
Nothing like a sneaky relative. Okay, we have time for one more question before I have to turn the mic back over to John. Has anybody got one last question for the evening to ask Jodi? Okay.
Deb's really good at that. Did you
I'm
notice
getting
how
a little
she's
bit nervous.
eliciting the
I'm getting
audience?
nervous. I'm getting nervous, George.
Burgers or pizza?
Burgers, I'm lactose intolerant.
Well, that was an easy question. Well, now we are actually entering Act 3, the end of the evening. And that means it's time for cookies and book signing. And I'm going to invite John back up here to tell you all the rules and regulations guiding book signing. John?
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of tonight's panelists and to all of you here and online for your questions. We will ask you to remain in place for one moment while we safely transport Jodi to a table immediately beside our cash desk. At that point, we'll invite you over. You can have a copy of the book signed. You can pay for it first, pay for it afterward. Just please do pay for the book at some point. And I'd also like to explain something particular that comes over an author's brain when they are launching a book. That is a sense of being somewhat overwhelmed when people from every possible walk of your life gather in a central location, which can leave your brain immediately a blank. So what I am going to do, just to assist the process, is wander down the line and write down the name you would like written inside the book, inside your book, on a Post-it note, just to make sure that you can spend much more time chatting with Jodi when you actually get to the table. So thank you all so very much for that indulgence. It is a very exceptional thing that happens to the Great Matter when one is put in a position such as that. But I'd like to close by thanking Pajama Press for publishing this wonderful book, for all of you for joining us here tonight. And of course, I'd like to ask you to join me in thanking all the incredible hosts for this evening: Deb Froese, Candice Sareen, Colleen Nelson, and of course, Jodi Carmichael. Thank you all so much.